Let's get this meeting underway, the hearing, and I would ask, as it is a formal council meeting, I would ask Councillor Pipe to take us through the prayer, please.
O God, our Creator, bless us as we gather today for this meeting. Guide our minds and our hearts so that we will work for the good of our community and help all your people. Teach us to be generous in our outlook, courageous in face of difficulty, and wise in our decisions. We ask this grace through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. I have an extremely late apology from Councillor Barker, who won't be here today or tomorrow, hoping to be here Wednesday. Councillor Dick.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to leave the meeting between about 2 and 3 to present the transport submission to Napier City Council.
It's today?
Today.
Okay. No other apologies, Councillor Scott?
Ask a question about that. That 2 days out of in fact the entire hearing, out of the hearing, makes it very difficult to actually give any sense of natural justice to the decision making. I presume Councillor Barker is sick, and that can't be.
He is not sick. He has a prior commitment.
Mr. Chairman, when did we know the dates of these hearings?
7 months ago. Someone prepared to move that we accept that apology? Move a second. Speakers? Put them up.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to speak. I mean, the apology is there, it's received, but this is when we listen to the public. This is when we actually actively engage. It's almost, in the council calendar, a sacred commitment to turn up and listen to what people have to say on the whole sort of plan that guides our spending and our. It is a commitment that actually only extreme circumstances should break, and I'm very disappointed that anybody can actually be a councillor and think that you can ignore the hearing.
I will also speak. This is the most important meeting in the triennium, and I will be voting against accepting that apology. Wish to sum up, Mover?
Yeah, I understand your concern. I also think this is a very important meeting, and so does Councillor Barker. I spoke to him yesterday, and he told me that he wasn't going to be able to attend the day 1 and day 2. And he's not sick. He's on a very delicate Waitangi tribunal negotiation, which he just can't get out of, and so he is very apologetic about that.
So put that motion in. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? No. Call for a division. Those in favour? And against? And the casting vote will carry it. Not accepted. Thank you. Right, let's move to notices. Well, obviously that's not the last we're going to hear of that. I'm going to put a notice up, straight up, that the minutes of this meeting will reflect the fact that Councillor Barker has not heard whatever submissions he hasn't heard, and that will be recorded throughout the meeting. I also put up as a notice I will not be here on Wednesday, and therefore my unavailability will be recorded, and I will not be participating in any votes that are, that I haven't heard the submission on, for the sake of natural justice. I'm actually representing the council with the Governor General. We're flying all over the region. It's an unfortunate clash, but he wanted the chairman of the council to go with him, and I am actually going to go. So I'll make that point.
These proceedings are videotaped, right?
Yes.
So you and any other councillor has the opportunity to view what happens here and inform yourselves accordingly.
After the decisions are made. Well, the decision's made at the end of the hearing, and the videotape's not available till the following day, so. Not today. Oh, yeah, sorry, there will be internal submissions, possibly, no, there won't be any external decisions.
Chair, there is no verbal submission that we will receive today that's not already a written one. And I think for either you or Councillor Barker to exclude themselves because you haven't heard verbal supplements is denying yourselves the opportunity to make a judgment on the written submissions, and I don't think that's necessary.
If you've done your commissioner training, which I know you have, this is a hearing, this is a formal hearing of council. It's serious stuff.
Mr Chair, how do you figure that flying around with the Governor-General is more important than a very delicate Waitangi tribunal decision?
I don't,
that
but
Barker's
Councillor
on?
Barker will insist on making decisions on the day, I will not.
Not necessarily, you're preempting him.
I didn't, well, he did last year. Any further notices?
On the same vein, I wanted to leave from the 18th to the 26th of this month.
We'll miss the council meeting.
Yes, unfortunately,
Thank you.
and especially when on the Monday, the 24th, I think, was hearing these submissions.
Right. Councillor Scott.
Chairman, this is a request rather than a notice. Can the staff please clarify on the item number 2 under the consultation documents on the science charges, can they identify which of those submitters actually are qualified to comment, i.e. are consent holders or speaking for consent holders? I'm just raising that now so that when we come to discuss that item, we can actually have that information.
Okay. Councillor Hewitt.
And I'm just wondering, in page 133 of our papers, I can't read what's there. Can that be circulated again, please, so that I can consider it, you know, with a bit of time?
Page 133. We're talking about them here.
That's Paul's thing.
Okay. Thank you. Right, the minutes are not available yet in a printed form, and I am going to suggest we defer the minutes until later in the hearing at some stage. No need to? Okay.
Chairman, they're not the minutes of the 3rd of June.
No, they're not. No, that's the other point, the 27th of May.
And normally I think they're confirmed at the actual council meeting.
Normally, but
Yeah.
this is a council meeting.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, they'll be deferred, they'll appear at some stage. So let's now go to page 3, which is the internal staff submission. And I will hand that over to the Chief Executive, or Mr Drury, to kick us off.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Internal staff submission. This comes into for consideration every annual plan and long-term plan. It covers areas where there needs to be or some amendments are recommended to council to the annual plan or LTP document. In this case, we cover some carry forwards. Some carry forwards have been requested by managers. There's also one amendment there to expenditure provision. Something else has come up since the long-term plan draft was approved by council in March, and there's also some amendments to the resource management charges, and we've got Ian here today to cover that off. What I've done here, councillors, is just given a bit of an update of the current financial year, 14-15, and taking the opportunity to give you some idea of where our finances are tracking. You'll recall back in April, the April council meeting, the deficit was forecast or reforecast to be 478,000. At the last meeting of this council on the 27th of May, HBRC updated you with their monthly operational update, and they covered as part of that update a discussion on the Environmental Protection Agency and related costs for the Rotanifa and how those costs had been incurred well over budget and the reasons for that. They also discussed that part of the cost that pertained to Plan Change 6, and there was a discussion there of a further 120,000. Council's already picking up 80,000 of it. Further 120,000 to be paid by council of that overrun, and I'm just pointing out here that additional 120,000 takes us to a reforecast deficit of 598, and that compares to the annual plan deficit of 424. So you can see we have moved out a bit. I thought it was worthwhile having a look at that as a lead-in to carry forwards, because carry forward is money not spent in 14-15 that staff are putting a case forward to taking that money and moving it into the next year and increasing their allocations for that year. So having said that, I'm happy to take questions on that, but having said that, we can move into the first request, if you wish, for a carry forward.
Questions, Councillor Bevan?
It's actually in regard to these requests. I'm a little bit concerned that we're getting things out of order here, because we've got some specific carryover requests here for a not insignificant amount of money that we need to consider, and then we've got requests from the submissions for not insignificant amounts of money as well. And if we agree to these carry forwards, then we are constraining ourselves with regard to other requests that we're going to receive in the next 3 days. And I'm just thinking that, in my mind, a better way to handle this would be to carry forward these requests and consider them at the end of the 3 days of hearings, so we've actually got can make a better judgment about what the priority should be, whether it should be for these carryovers or a combination of these carryovers and some of the other requests that we've received.
Yeah, I take Councillor Bevan's point. I mean, you get bits of a picture. I think that's what his concern is. I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that this paper has gone through and there is some debate about whether amounts need to be carried forward, and we have the group managers here to take you through that, and the two group managers involved are with us, which is good. So I think decisions need to be made whether you believe they should be carried forward, given the reasons, and there's an additional expenditure in here which I'll talk to. And then perhaps, Mr. Chairman, they'll be subject to a final approval at the end of the process, when you know what other issues have come up for money, what other financial pressures.
So why would we approve them and then backtrack on them? Wouldn't it be better just to hold them and consider them at the end?
Well, it would, Councillor, but I think we have chunks of time here to fill in for the next hour, actually.
Well, I think in addition to filling in time, I think the important thing really is while time has been allocated, that you're able to ask questions of the officers, and then, you know, you don't need to move or second any of these until, you know, the full picture perhaps, but just the opportunity to understand.
Oh, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm more than happy that we should have the discussion about them, so
Yes.
we understand what's
Yeah.
involved, but
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting we delay actually confirming whether we go ahead and commit those expenditures or not until we've had the hearings.
That's fine, yeah.
Councillor Scott, then Councillor Hewitt.
Yes, perhaps partly relating to that is quite clear in my understanding that anything that's going on the bottom line of last year from carry forwards is coming off the bottom line of this year.
It's all to do with money from this year being transferred to the next year. Okay, and if it's not transferred, of course, it relieves your deficit for this current financial year.
Becomes a different figure.
Yeah.
So back to my question is, what goes on the bottom line from a carry forward next year comes off the bottom line this year?
That's right.
Right, well, perhaps if I, I know you will eventually get there, but I could pick up on your table on page 8 of this document. It
Yeah.
seems to me that there is an item missing from that, which is a carry forward, and that's under the paragraph 10, technical capital.
Oh, councillor, that's because that goes into the capital budget. This here's the
Okay,
operation.
so that's,
Yeah, the operational account.
But off
yeah.
the bottom, the total bottom line then of our deficit, I'd come out to a deficit of $114,000 for this year. That'd be operational and capital together.
Sorry, councillor, you're saying that if,
The deficit for this year,
Yeah.
unless there are some things in it that I can't yet find, it'll occur between now and the end of the month, I come to a deficit of $114,000 on our bottom line.
yes, you're right, councillor. If
Right, thank you.
all this,
Yep.
if all the requests here are carried forward, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Hewitt.
We had some discussion about how this worked in our annual plan hearings last year, and one of the requests that I thought was pretty much agreed on was that we'd have a rolling bottom line PowerPoint thing. Councillor Belford brought it up and explained how they used it in Hastings. So has anything been done about those requests in order to help us make informed decisions?
Well, Mr Chairman, we do have a list of those submissions that have requested additional funding, and so we've got a list of those and the amount of funding that they've requested, so we can have a look down in one sheet of paper and determine how much has been asked. The impact on rating, for every 150,000 additional, it's 1% increase in rates. So it's not difficult. It's not difficult. For instance, if you decide at the end of this sessions to approve requests for up to 100,000, that would be a 0.7% increase in your rates. Yeah, and we can guide you through that.
Yeah, but I thought it was a really good idea, actually, giving us something up on a whiteboard and letting it roll and, not being guided, but actually let us see, all right, now that's going to be that and there's the net effect. And
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, certainly when it comes, to you making the actual decisions, we can have that available up on the screen so you can sort of get an instant
that'd be great.
response to, the effect that your decision would have.
Councillor Dick.
Yeah, the only reservation I've got about that is that it may create a tendency to give less consideration to the merit of the budget item, as opposed to if it appears that there's some spare money, well, we'll give it away. And that's certainly not how I'm going to approach this budget.
Okay. No further questions? Oh, sorry, councillor Belford.
Could you just explain how are we going to go through the actual decision making? Is that all being postponed basically till Wednesday afternoon?
Through you, Mr Chairman, my understanding is that once you have heard submissions pertaining to one of the topics, one of the topics set out in our plan, and there's 12 of them, then once you've heard those submissions, and if you have time, then you can deliberate and whether what action you want to take on that proposal in our plan. And Leanne is.
He's talking about the internal submissions.
No.
No,
No,
the whole
lot, yeah,
Magilla, the whole Magilla.
Yeah.
So what we will do is, once we're confident that you've heard all the people who wish to be heard on a particular topic, one of those 12, we'll advise you that you've now, at least completed the physical hearing part of that, and take you through the other written submissions. But there's none today, so there won't be an ability to make any decisions today. But by tomorrow there will, partway through tomorrow there will be. Yes, yeah.
Just in regard to councillor, this is new. Just a question. This is the first time we haven't just started making decisions on these right from the start. Correct?
On the internal?
On the internals. I just can't see the sense in discussing them and then coming back and voting on them later. I mean, look, can you give me some guidance here, Mr. Drury. Why the a valid request, but surely in the past it has worked okay
It's worked.
to deal with the carry forwards as we went.
Yes, it has, Mr. Chairman. I can only think that the logic from Councillor Bevan's point of view is that if there were items requested from submitters and he felt that maybe money should be made available, then he would perhaps not put through one of the carry forwards. But
Just to amplify, the very first request here, which is under sustainable land management, is $120,000. There's a request here for funding for a smart farming centre, and I could see that $120,000 being rolled into that project. And I think we would need to discuss that and decide whether that's a good or a bad thing to do. If we commit the $120,000, we've lost the opportunity to look at the bigger picture.
Mr. Chairman, the reality is that you don't actually make your final decisions until a council meeting at the end of the month when the annual plan's adopted. You know, everything's still open till then. So I agree with you that a progressive process of working things through, albeit that those decisions, in a sense, are interim decisions and can be reconsidered.
Just to me, we're setting ourselves up for a great hodgepodge at the end. That's my only concern.
it could be tricky to manage, but I mean, as Councillor Dick said, I mean, all decisions can be revisited. Would that be right? Yeah.
Well, not so much revisited, but confirmation happens
All confirmation.
at the end of the month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to follow on from what Councillor Bevan said, and I don't want to labour this because we've got people arriving shortly, but the 120,000 to carry forward and then change the designation for its use, would that be a normal practice?
Well, there's three options for this. If we take the 120,000 as an example, there's one option, and that is to take it as an underspend, and it will in the 14-15 year, and that will that'll bring down your deficit in 14-15. That's one action. The other action is you bring it forward and allow an increase in the regional land care grant schemes to the next year to go up to over $1 million. And the other one is, well, if there's 120 available in 14-15, let's carry it forward, but yet let's use it for something else. But that is a little bit different. We haven't really done that before, to be fair. But that's just because we haven't done it before.
Councillor Scott, let's
Mr.
bring
Chairman,
this to
I'm
a
going
conclusion.
to be very pragmatic because we're not going to get round to everything. We're almost due to start the hearings. I do believe that it's probably best practice to leave it. At the very most, it's going to add another 20 minutes onto the decision making on Wednesday. It's not a big deal time factor.
Okay.
And it does mean that through the course of the hearings, if there is something else that staff comes up with, and now I'm going back to my commissioner's hat and being able to consider that. There may be further internal submissions that they wish to make, which they haven't thought of yet. It gives them the opportunity to respond to some of those things through that process before the end of the close of the series. Doesn't really make very much difference to our timetable. We can consider this. We don't need to make a decision. We can defer the decision making until Wednesday. I think that actually does adopt a best practice approach, and it really does not lengthen the decision making on Wednesday by a huge amount.
Just that there's a lot of gaps in the day as a result.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What would be the consequence of not carrying forward the first one, 120,000?
Councillor, if that wasn't carried forward, then the deficit which I've put up there as being just under 600, the reforecast deficit of just under 600,000 would be 480,000.
I appreciate that. What I really mean is what effect, if any, will it have on the council's work or delivery of services, given that in this particular instance there's an ongoing budget and quite a significant one. So it does seem to me that that's one that could be dispensed with without any material effect on services, but tell me if I'm wrong.
The task that you've given staff is quite significant in terms of implementing Plan Change 6. There has been a lot of work dealing with the Papanui group, who have sort of agreed in principle, is my understanding, to the actions that are proposed, which is for riparian planting, but are waiting to make a final decision until they have certainty around the outcome of Plan Change 6. So they're ready to go. Now, you know, we are aware that the budget in future years is extremely tight to actually achieve and the implementation expectations that are set by Plan Change 6. The work's been done with these people, so they're ready to go once the decision is final. So really what we're doing is probably pushing back the ability to implement as quickly as possible if we're not carrying this forward and making that provision for that expenditure. That would be my assessment.
Our first submitter's not here.
Oh,
She-
Shari's here.